In my last article on functional controller tests, we built out a scenario with 3 different roles. We test all of the RESTful actions with those roles. This time we're going to speed up the test by removing the database calls, most of them anyway. We're going to replace them with stubbing via the Mocha gem. So we're going to create, we're going to make a setting that has not been saved in the database, and we're going to stub out the ID, or we're going to give it an ID since normally the save function would do that. And we're also going to go ahead and stub out the find methods on the setting itself. This way, whenever find is called, it'll return a setting, or if find is called with all, then it'll return the setting in an array. And you notice earlier we also removed the old creation of a setting that was hitting the database. The only database interaction we're going to have here is loading the fixtures and calling the login as. Our index is not going to change at all, our index tests. The find has been stubbed, everything else will work exactly the same. We don't need to change any tests for show or for new. Create is going to be the first time that we actually need to change the tests, and even here we only need to change the setup. We're going to go ahead and stub out the save method, and we're going to return true to simulate good data being pumped in. And because we're doing that, oh wait, just a second, we also need to go ahead and add an ID to this, since the redirect is going to expect an ID. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and get rid of this valid hash because we no longer need it. We're going to remove the test that the record was actually created, since we're not hitting the database anymore. And our invalid data test is going to be very similar. The only difference is we're going to stub out save to return false. And when we're stubbing these out, we're putting expectation. We're using expects. And that means that it's going to check and verify that save was actually called in the controller exactly once, the way we've set it up here. So nothing else changes. Our edit tests stay the same. The update tests need to change a lot like our create tests did. So we're going to start by stubbing out update attributes. And we're going to put an expectation that that is changed, or that is called in this action. And we're going to force it to return true to simulate valid data. Now when I recorded the video portion of this, I actually erased this whole settings hash, and what I meant to do was just leave an empty hash. And we're also going to erase the test that the record was actually created because we're not hitting the database anymore. So now with invalid data, we're going to do the same test, but we're going to return false on this expectation. And we'll trim down that hash because it's no longer being used. Everything else stays the same. And lastly, we need to change the setup of the destroying test. We're going to go ahead and stub out the destroy call, so it's not actually hitting the database, and it doesn't return anything, so we don't. There's no conditional there, and we're going to delete the test that hits the database to check if it was deleted because it was never there to begin with. All of our member and visitor tests are going to stay the same, but you'll notice there's a lot of repetition in here. And we're going to cover that in the next article about functional controller tests. We'll get rid of a lot of that duplication when we dry up our tests. Thank you.